Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Real Positive Girl podcast. My name is Sabrina. Thank you so much for joining me again for another episode of the podcast. Happy Tuesday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day if you have just gotten up and you're just getting your day going. And I hope that it's going to be an absolute fantastic day. Minimal things that are going to get in your way, minimal things that are going to cause you any problems. And if you were in the middle or towards the end of your day, I hope that you had a really good day. I hope that, despite any, small troubles or small problems that you had, that you were still able to get through it and feel accomplished and feel good about your day. But I'm telling you that if you did have a crappy day, if you did have some things that came against you, some problems that you had to battle, then I hope that you were able to take your 5-minute reset time. And if you're unfamiliar with that, it's just taking at least 5 minutes, but if you have more, take more, where you can be alone and you can regain your peace. You can kind of like go back to baseline. You can start your day over again, essentially, at that time. Also, you will be able to maybe take some time to problem solve and figure out what is getting in your way and how you can combat it, problem solving skills, you know what I mean? And also just make sure that you take some time to think of some things that you are grateful for and be able to walk away from the 5-minute reset time feeling good about the day, walking away feeling at least neutral, just making sure that you're not going to walk away and want to just, drag all the negativity that you may have, piled up inside and try to ruin someone else's day, or you might just want to throw the whole day away and think that it's a waste, because honestly, if that is the attitude that you have, you definitely need to sit and spend some more time thinking of things to be grateful for, because despite what you're going through, and yes, I know, I understand, maybe you've dragged all the way to hell and back, and, you're just having the worst day, the worst week even, but remember, there is always something to be grateful for. There's at least 4 things you can be grateful for, and I'm not saying that you have to be the most cheery person afterwards, but you just need to feel at least neutral and just go into the rest of your day knowing that tomorrow could be a better day and that you can feel stronger and better and know that this is only a season of life. So I hope that that's helpful. But again, happy Tuesday. Just a reminder that we are talking about growing your mindset this week. And today, Tuesday, we're going to talk about accept and embrace your imperfections. So let's go ahead and just jump right in. I just want to start with no one is perfect. No one is perfect. It's a fantasy and something we should all accept if we don't already. Let's start by talking about some key facts in regards to perfectionism. And first up is making sure everyone knows that being a perfectionist is not striving to be your best. I was recently talking to my husband about this because we were talking about how my daughter is a perfectionist and she struggles with that, as do I. And, people that aren't necessarily familiar with how that affects your mental state will think like, oh no, you just want everything to be good in tip-top shape. You want everything to be, the best it can be. But honestly, it's not. Being a perfectionist is so terrible. It has so many terrible tendencies. It creates such a negative mental health state, and it doesn't really help you accomplish many things. And honestly, it also brews in procrastination, anxiety, depression, and so many things it feeds into. So perfectionism is not a good thing to have. Striving to be your best, that's something totally different, and something that we all should try to have at different points in our life, striving to be our best in whatever we're doing. But it's definitely, that's not what perfectionism is. And perfectionism is also destructive to yourself, because no one is perfect and you are killing yourself for something that is a fantasy. It is not something that anyone's going to be able to accomplish. You can never be perfect. The only person that was perfect is Jesus. And that's the cold hard truth for you. It's just so difficult. No one is perfect. You might feel like your life is perfect, or you might feel like everything is going perfect. And I understand that as like a state of mind and how everything seems to be lining up and you're not experiencing any troubles, any setbacks, any problems that are causing you so much distress or anything like that. However, that is not perfect, There's always going to be a little bit of something here and there, and maybe you have such a great positive mindset that it doesn't truly bother you and it's not something that affects you very much, and that's great. That's amazing, but it's still not perfect. And I just want you to realize that trying to be a perfectionist is really self-destructive, and something that, including myself, because I've already called myself out for struggling with this for so long, ever since I was a child, it's something that we all need to work on, moving away from, healing from, getting away from those struggles. And, trying to be perfect is a terrible addiction and a tough habit to stop. It's one of those things you're not necessarily going to be able to kick overnight, within a week, a month. It might even take you years. It's taking me years, and some people will be able to break away quicker than others, and some people might take a little bit longer. It's just depending on the tendencies, how long you've been struggling with it, and how deeply it is ingrained into who you are. So I just want to let you know that it's okay if you are struggling with that. Obviously, I'm not saying that it is one of the worst things ever and that you're a terrible person if you are. I'm just saying that it's so tough. It's such a tough thing, and I want you to know that I'm here to, support you and encourage you and let you know that it is self-destructive, but it's something that if you can recognize it in yourself and know that you need to pull away from it, that is step number one, and that's amazing. One of the best first ways to embrace your imperfection is to get over being obsessed with what others think of you. It doesn't help you become a better person or accomplish anything important at all whatsoever if you are, so hung up on what people are saying about you. And it's so tough. And recently I've talked a lot about being so hung up on what people think about you, or people liking you rather, and those things go hand in hand. And if you continue, to just be so hung up on what other people are saying, or, what their opinion is about you, what they're saying to other people about you, you will never fully be the person that you want to be. Also, it'll hold you back from so many things, and it's like a dark cloud over yourself that you're allowing to stay there. You're not protecting yourself from it at all. And so I encourage you to, look into any sort of insecurities and anxieties that you are experiencing, and the fact that you're holding this thought inside your mind, and try to break away from it, and I have had that problem for so many years. Actually, within the last year, though, I've gotten so much better at just brushing things off that people say about me, especially during a transition that I'm currently going through now in my life, where things are changing. And even today, someone today at work just completely threw me under the bus, and I was just like, it's fine. It's fine. Like, they're going to say that. I know it's true. You have to tell yourself, it's true. And the people that support you and love you know what's true. And so even if someone is bad-mouthing you or telling you you're not the best person, and you know that you are doing the best that you can, just believe what you're telling yourself and what other people are telling you to support you. And unless it's like constructive criticism that they're actually giving you, which is going to come out way differently than someone telling you that you're a sucky person, something like that. Constructive criticism and good feedback is actually helpful. But if people are just, spouting out of the mouth like whatever they want, that's not going to be helpful, and that's not something that you should listen to. You need to be your true self and not rely on others' impressions of you to dictate who you are and how you live your life. You can't truly connect with others on an honest level until you do so as your true self, your true authentic self. And maybe you've never taken the time to think about that, because when I was doing the research, I didn't necessarily take the time to really think like, wow, I'm out there trying to be everyone's friend and get to know everyone, and, kind of be Switzerland in everything, just totally neutral with everyone, not causing any drama, stirring anything up. But, I did realize over the years that there were only a few people that I actually truly connected to, because I was open and honest about most things with them, and that was who I was. I was being super authentic, and I actually was able to have true relationships with them and connect with them. And because it was on that honest level, I wasn't trying to hide behind being perfect, or trying to hide that I made mistakes, or, I've gone through troubles and have struggled, So I encourage you to think about that if you haven't. You can't truly connect with people, truly connect with them on an honest level, until you are actually being your true authentic self. And Before I move on to the next point, I want you to know that if you are like me and you are having the hardest time discovering who your true, authentic self is, I encourage you to seek help and talk to someone about it. So I would say go see a counselor. That's what's helped me the most in my entire life. But maybe you're not into that, and that's totally fine. And honestly, don't feel any shame if you do feel like a counselor would work for you, but you're afraid of what people would say. You don't necessarily have to tell everyone about it, but if you feel like you need to tell someone, then tell someone. But you could also just talk to a mentor, you could talk to a coach, you could talk to a personal friend, a family member, whomever you need to talk to. But I encourage you to talk to someone because, I struggled with that for so long, and I really had to go through counseling to figure out, and I'm still figuring it out, but to really figure out who I am, because I pretended to be the person that everyone needed around me for so long that I lost who I was, and I was no one. I was a shadow. So think about that if you are also struggling with that. And next, view your failures as a step closer to your end goal. And if the word failure is a bit harsh, I suggest you use the word mistake instead. It's a lot gentler on your mind. But yeah, view your mistakes, your failures as a step closer, because sometimes, a lot of times, you're not going to necessarily get to your goal unless you do make mistakes, unless you do fail at things, because it's like that saying of like failing upwards. You're getting closer to your goal because you're realizing what isn't going to work and what you need to change. And, going through those experiences actually will get you there quicker, because you're not trying to like tiptoe around everything, spend extra time trying to make things perfect. And then also going through hard things and going through failures and mistakes will help you to become better at problem solving. And problem solving skills are always necessary, and if everything is just golden and sunshine in your life all the time, you're not going to know how to problem solve when something finally does come crashing down. Little, big, small, medium, it doesn't matter what it is. You need to have problem solving skills, and maybe you won't necessarily have the resources or the availability or the time to reach out to someone to help you. And maybe it's an emergency and you need to be able to figure out at least the first step on your own. So I encourage you, just view them as steps closer to your goal, opportunities to learn new things, different ways to do things, what not to do, how you can tell someone else how not to do it, It'll help you grow and learn. Give yourself room to mess up and not be perfect, which will help negate your need to be perfect if you struggle with that, and like we talked about. And be kind to yourself. If you're having a hard time giving yourself that room, it will take some time to wean away from being a perfectionist and having those tendencies, but it's definitely super important. Just give yourself grace. Just be like, okay, it's okay that I made this mistake, and even if I make this mistake again, it's okay, because I'm going to learn another lesson. And because how people will be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this again. But maybe you were destined to make that mistake again, because you're going to figure out another way to avoid it, or you just didn't fully learn the lesson the first time. And that might seem very frustrating and create some anger inside. I understand. I've been there. But sometimes it's just necessary. You got to be able to flex and flow and just know that it's going to be okay, and you'll be able to work your way through it. And it's all part of the plan. And so I want to encourage you that it's okay. Just let yourself mess up. Don't continue to try to move away from those perfectionist tendencies, and be kind to yourself. Be like, it's okay. I'm not going to don't beat yourself down, because one of the toughest critics that you have is yourself, your mind inside telling you all these negative things. And I mentioned yesterday that, the person that's going to beat you down the most is yourself, because no one else knows the negative things you're telling yourself, because it's inside your mind, and no one else will be able to stop it, because they're not going to know what's happening. So please give yourself some grace. And hopefully this doesn't offend anyone, but by being okay with making mistakes and accepting those mistakes fully, you are more authentic and relatable to others. Take a moment and think about someone in your life that is kind of like the epitome of what almost being perfect is. Like, really think about it. And especially people that you might see on the internet. And I know that, social media, it lies. It's like a highlight reel. I hear it. But I want you to think about that, though. And if you truly sat there and thought about that person and how everything seemed put together and in the right place and just so shiny and pretty, do you feel like they're relatable? Do you feel like they're authentic? And, let me just say that they might be relatable. and they might be authentic, but it doesn't appear that way, and it doesn't seem like there's that ease, that comfort there, and maybe people like this in your real life that trying to make sure the exterior is the most shiny thing ever so that everything looks perfect. And usually when people try so hard for that, the inside is an absolute mess. Take it from me. That's exactly how I lived my life for so the longest time. And everything is usually a mess inside, but no one will try to penetrate that barrier on the outside because it looks too perfect. It looks like they wouldn't be able to relate with them at all. It's so overwhelming and discomforting and kind of a turnoff. So just think about that. It's okay to be relatable and make mistakes and be able to share those stories and those experiences with other people. Also, see challenges as opportunities to grow and learn. And yes, I talk about this all the time. I know. But, challenges will help you grow as a person and teach you new things and expose things that you may need to work on. And all of those things are okay. It's absolutely okay for, your weaknesses to be exposed so that you actually work on them and they no longer become weaknesses. They can become strengths, or they can just become things that you're pretty good at and maybe we'll continue to work at, but, it's not necessarily this thing that's completely dragging you down, holding you down. And so challenges are absolutely opportunities to grow and learn, and they're necessary. They're necessary in life. If you're continuing to live your life skirting responsibilities and opportunities and trying never to make mistakes and never to encounter trouble, you're going to be in a world of hurt later because you're not going to know how to problem solve, as I mentioned before, and you're not going to learn anything, and you're not going to grow, and you're not going to feel like you've developed over time. Everything is going to become the same and be stagnant, and you're not going to go to the next level, as they say. So I would definitely keep that in mind. And exposing things that you're weak at, again, it's not a bad thing. It might feel like a bad thing, but it's not. It just helps you to become even stronger. Lastly, know and accept your worth. Just because you make mistakes and aren't perfect, it doesn't mean you aren't worth something. I feel like this is so important because, you might not think of this immediately when you think about accepting your imperfections, but a lot of times we don't want to embrace those things or even think about them because it makes us feel worthless. It makes us feel like we aren't worth anything because we are making mistakes and we are encountering trouble. And honestly, those things have nothing to do with your worth and who you are and how you think of yourself. Like I mentioned, no one is perfect. And even those who are as close as they can get aren't any better than you. They are probably in more pain than you because trying to be perfect is all they're thinking about. And it hurts other things in their life. And it's such a hard game to play. It's such a hard race to run, trying to be a perfectionist in everything. So many things, like I told you, you're working so hard to make sure that everything is so shiny and beautiful and that people will think you're absolutely amazing and you've set these high expectations for yourself, but really, that's not what it looks like on the inside at all whatsoever. So, just know that even with things that you fail at, make mistakes, have to change your course many times, it doesn't have anything to do with your worth. Your worth is something completely different, and I want you to remember that, and don't just, add that to the things that people can control or the struggles can control. No matter who you are, where you are at in life, you are worth so much. You're amazing, you're strong, you're capable, you're smart, you're good looking, you are, and you're worthy of being here and trying hard and doing your best, and keep going. Don't give up. Just know that you're worth the time and effort it takes to get better at whatever you're working at in life. So please do not equate those things together. Also, be grateful for the mistakes you make and the learning lessons you gain from those experiences. I talk about being grateful all the time, every single day. And it's important. It's important to be grateful for those mistakes because, I look back at my life and I look back at all the hard things I had to go through, especially my childhood, and then the struggles that my husband and I had to go through. We first got married, and then we had a child, and then as time went on, we've had our ups and downs, but honestly, we've learned so much from every season of life that we've gone through, and I finally feel like we're hitting a season of life where everything is coming together. Everything's coming together, but I can already see on the horizon there's going to be different kind of experiences, different kind of struggles, different kind of trouble that's going to come against us that we're going to, fight together. But I'm just looking at it like, okay, like I'm not necessarily like doomsday, like, oh my gosh, here comes more trouble. Why can't things just be calm? No, I'm just thinking, wow, new experiences, we can get through this. We've been strengthened so much over however long. We've been married for almost 14 years now, but even in our separate lives before we even knew each other, we were building that strength inside, and so many experiences have built us up to be ready for these moments that are coming. And even if we're not fully ready and we still have to have some pitfalls and some mistakes, it's fine. We're going to get through it, and you're going to get through it. So just remember that. Be grateful for those mistakes and learning lessons, because you gain so much. And yeah, 2020 is like, hindsight is 2020, but reflecting is one of the best ways to figure out what you need to do next time and how you should navigate it next time. And you know what I mean? So just remember that. But I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast. Again, my name is Sabrina, and happy Tuesday. I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. And if you need any more information or you want to get in contact with me, please check the description box where it has all the notes for the show. Also, how you can get to my website, how you can find me on Instagram, my email address, anything you need to get in touch with me or give me any feedback, comments, questions, concerns, prayer requests, whatever you need. But I hope that you really enjoyed this episode. Please share it with someone else that you think might really enjoy it too. And I hope you come back for the rest of the episodes for this week. But until next time, have a good one, and I will see you later. Bye.